An important reason for Islam's spread is how its central texts are separated from its adherents by a language barrier, and how this creates the formative social conditioning of its individuals. When children are born into Islam, they are not encouraged to learn the meaning of the texts. This may come later, if at all. What they are taught is blind repetition of its scripture. Madrasas are filled with children learning a language they do not understand. Understanding is secondary to recitation. The effects of this are profound. Children are taught purely that this book is holy, and its teachings should be followed in order to be classed as a good person, which will allow admittance into heaven, and those who do not are doomed to eternal torture of the most gratuitous and sadistic kind. Here is a woman arguing that the Gospels, known in Islam as the Injil, are in alignment with the teachings of the Quran.
All of this is one God.
Sorry?
All this book, Quran,
Yeah.
Injil,
Yeah.
what's the name, Christianity, Judaism, all of them, it's book of Allah, God, yeah?
Yeah.
He's creating this book certain of period. Every period of nation has making big problems.
Yeah.
God created, send books to guide the population for it. For example, Jewish. He created Torah because the Jewish back at the time, they were doing dodgy things. God, he made it to discipline them.
Yeah.
Come back to this policy and this policy
Are different.
and Torah policy.
Are
They
different.
are all of them one God.
They are
So
different.
God, like,
So there you go. So as you can see, Muslims will make claims they can't verify.
Can I tell you something?
This
The
book
last one.
contradicts this
Listen,
book.
listen.
No, sister,
No,
you can't. No, right.
No,
This book,
book
firstly,
and
this book contradicts this book.
I didn't tell you that.
This book,
No,
I'm telling
say
you
saying
that this book
I'm not agreeing with
contradicts
that.
this book.
Me, what I want to
You
say
said you've
is-
read this
No,
book.
I didn't
Tell me
you.
one
Don't
thing that this
lie.
book. So
Don't
you've not
lie.
read this book.
No, I said to you.
So you've not read
didn't-
this book.
I haven't told you that I read it.
Have you read it?
I don't have it. I don't read it.
I don't have it. I don't read it. So how do you know that this book doesn't contradict this book?
I didn't
How do you
tell
know?
You know what I
How do you know?
What I was telling you.
I would
My
like you to
conclusion.
answer
No,
my
listen.
question.
What I said
Answer my
to
question.
you-
It is debatable whether this person has even understood the Quran, let alone the Bible. As is often the case, knowledge about other religions filters through communities as distorted sound bites meant to elevate Islam's status rather than the truth. I suspect this woman's knowledge is an accumulation of this kind of information. Early religious reverence creates a level of blind obedience that bypasses any social conditioning provided by the country a Muslim is born into. And of course, this conditioning is even more effective if the state and its institutions are Islamic too. Once this is instilled at a young age, the meaning of the Quran is secondary to its veneration. In other words, learning what the text means is less relevant than accepting it. Thus, no matter what it says, if an individual is conditioned from a young age to believe it is divinely inspired, its content is all accepted without question. Objective reasoning and critical thinking is suspended permanently and is rarely encouraged. If you have questions, they are answered by the learned who decide what they mean for you, and then you accept it as authoritative. We see a recent example of this ring fencing of comprehension when influencer Sneeko poses questions to a sheikh.
I've been struggling with this one ever since I read this hadith, which, I have to admit I didn't like when I read it.
Listen.
No, Sheikh, tell me.
First of all, we as Muslims have to have submission, certainty, no questions asked, no strings attached. This is Quran, I believe it. Do you fully embrace it? Yes. No questions asked. This is a hadith. Do you take it? Is it authentic? Is it?
That's what I read, yeah.
Then if it's authentic, it's from Allah. How could I be shaky?
But, I mean, how are we able to judge how authentic hadith is, or...?
You don't. How do you judge whether this neurosurgeon who's going to do a spine cord surgery on you is authentic or not?
Judged by opinions of other people.
Okay, so by whose people?
The professionals.
Professionals. So you go to the scholars.
That's why I'm asking you.
I'm coming to you. I'm not answering yet. I'm just setting the foundation for the belief. The biggest problem we have with the Westerners from America and from Canada and from Europe is that they don't have their Islam on cemented area. They're so easy to flip to the other side, and that's why you find many of them starting to be good and strong and mashallah, and all of a sudden, I have doubts. Why? The Prophet married Aisha when she was 9. Ooh, you're a kafir. If you doubt the Prophet ﷺ for a second, you're a full-fledged kafir. Get the heck out of my house. Don't even think about it. No second chances.
If one teaches a child that a book they do not understand is the most important book in the world, and the man who transmitted it is beyond question, anything that they discover afterwards about its contents will be defended blindly by any means necessary. This is often labeled as Taqiyya, the practice of concealing or lying about one's beliefs in order to defend Islam. However, when understanding the psychology of the religious conditioning that I have described, this is not entirely accurate. Often what is seen as Taqiyya is not deliberate deception. It is the defense mechanism generated by this religious conditioning. It is not always conscious lying, but the search for excuses. The deception seems often not only to be external, but internal. A person must also convince themselves that the story they are telling is true. This is to avoid the inquiry causing self-doubt and existential anxiety. Such doubts call into question not just personal beliefs, but family, heritage, and tradition. It is in many ways natural for a human to avoid such a state of anxiety and emotional discomfort. Here we see a woman defending the beating of women in the Quran. Note how this is not willful lying, but the desperation of a religiously conditioned person to not accept the ugliness of the text she has accepted as divine.
But it doesn't say that if your wife is not obeying you, so beat her. It's not like that. Would you not ask your child to not go near the fire? Is it because you provide for them or you care about them? So you care about them, so it's really about you don't neglect them, you don't beat them. That's literally like telling like, this is your line, this is your line. If things go bad, this is your line. It doesn't say just divorce them, just take them out, just beat them. It doesn't say that.
Can I reply? So this is literally what it says. And she has agreed now that I didn't take it out of context and we didn't need to read it in context. So we can just read it as it is. Listen to these words. As to those women on whose part ye fear. That could also be translated as suspect. Ye fear disloyalty and ill conduct, admonish them first, next refuse to share their beds, and lastly strike them. That's what the passage actually says. If your husband suspects that you have been disloyal, that suspicion alone justifies him in admonishing you, in banishing you from the bed, and in striking you according to the Quran. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. Striking is marital physical abuse, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the sister went on to make an argument. She used a comparison to raising a child. So in other words, her part of her defense is that a woman is like a child and so must be disciplined like a child. You said that if a child was going to go towards the fire, you would admonish them and if necessary, smack them. Exactly. And she's using that as an argument for defending a husband beating his wife. In other words, she is seeing women like children in the marriage context. That is something alien to the Christian worldview.
Striking, the word that's used for striking, is not like hitting.
No, it is. It's striking.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, you need to check
no,
that.
you're the ones making it up.
No.
It's literally the Arabic. It's like striking a donkey. The same word is used in Arabic for striking a donkey. Now, let me ask you this. You've just made it an example. Your justification is if the woman is irrational, like someone who's going to jump off a cliff, then you can do something like strike them.
No.
That's
By the way, that's my book.
That's my book. It's not yours. I'll do what I want. No, it's my Quran. It's not your Quran. If you're an Islamic supremacist, go somewhere else.
Okay.
This is my Quran. It's not yours. I'll do with it whatever I want.
No, that's my Quran.
No, it's not your Quran. It's my Quran. Do you own it? Do you own it? Do you own it?
It's not about the book.
Deal with the striking.
I respect my
I
Quran.
struck it lightly. Is that right or wrong? I struck it lightly. But I struck it lightly. But I struck it lightly, so it's okay. I struck this Quran lightly. It's my Quran. I can do whatever I want with it. It's not theirs.
There's a difference between women
But
and the book.
it's different. In other words, it's okay to strike a woman, but it's not okay to strike the Quran. Seriously. Shame on you indeed. Shame on you indeed. Let's be clear what the Quran says. It doesn't say if your wife is irrational and going to jump off a cliff. It says if you suspect your wife of disloyalty or disobedience. Does disloyalty and disobedience mean jumping off a cliff? It's literally what your Quran says. So you're making an argument that your Quran doesn't make. And you're trying to the reason why you're doing it is because you can't defend what your Quran says.
What point are you trying to make? Because Bible also...
This desperation also leads to coping methods, such as referring to Arabic as a special, untranslatable language. If the text is attacked, the translation is wrong or it is simply impossible to translate it into a different language. This also helps Muslims dismiss critics that do not speak Arabic. So what we find is that the effectiveness of Islam lies in its obfuscation through a foreign and supposedly arcane language. The repeating of a language with little understanding sows the seeds of compliance and fear-based obedience that often last a lifetime. Once understanding does come, it is often through the repeating of propaganda via soundbites passed down through the community. This behavior then often leads to a process of argumentation that entails within it an unconscious state of self-deception. At this point, the repeating of falsehoods becomes commonplace, and the ability to generate critical reasoning all but vanishes.